Hi, my name is Britt and I am an artist, midwife and nurse based in Hobart, Tasmania. In this how-to video, we're going to go through how to create my flowers textured art piece. This is one of my most popular designs and I can see why, because I love it so much. So let's get started. To start off with, you're going to get your canvases and get one out of the packet ready to mix up the paint. So to start off with, we're going to mix the paint that we'll use as our background colour. I always have white as my base and then add in the other colours. So in this piece, I'm going for a pinky peachy, rusty kind of pink. So I'll put in a bit of the pink paint provided, mix that, also a bit of the yellow paint, which will give more of the peachy tone. So you want to do long strokes, being careful of the corners so that it's nice and even around the corners and it's not splattering off to the side. Often I will find that you do the first coat of paint and then let it dry for a bit and come back and do a second coat so that you don't have the white of the canvas bleeding through the paint. Allowing the paint to dry also provides you a good opportunity to see how the colour dries and if you want to make any tweaks to the colour, and which you can just paint over the top. Next, we're going to be mixing the paste. So in this piece, I am using Mont moulding paste, which is super light, flexible and perfect to mix and create those thick petals. I like to put a few tablespoons of paste in little piles so that I can mix up desired colours. I will usually like to go for a dark tone, a lighter tone, and then a few in between just to keep things interesting in the art piece. When it comes time to mixing the paste, often you'll find that you have to use more colour of paint and perhaps different shades of paint to reach the desired effect. The white of the paste really changes the colour of the paint, so you won't know until you try. Don't hesitate and don't worry if you get it wrong, because usually it's easily fixed by just adding a bit more paint or a different colour of paint to override the colour that you don't really want. This is arguably my favourite part of the whole process, as I find it so fun and like a creative outlet to see what colours I can come up with that complement each other. Once I have finished mixing the paint, which is a quick tip for you, I often put the paint in plastic containers that you can just get from the supermarket, so that it's easier to store so you can come back, meaning you don't have to do the whole piece in one go, it won't dry out. And two, I find it easier to lift the paint up onto the palette knife if you have a corner of a container to kind of scrape your paste onto. Now this design is basically where I'd like to do lots of flowers, petals, and just condensed garden of flowers. So I use a few different palette knives to achieve this. You can see that when I'm doing the inside of the flower, I like to do a mini flower with little dots. Something that has a skinny, long palette knife is great for doing these dots that you can see me doing in the video. To do the petals, I use something that is a bit thicker, and then you get a good amount of paste, scraping it on the container and then lightly push onto the canvas to get that peak effect at the end of the petal. I do also like to go around and do a second coat of the petals because it just adds that volume to the piece. And then adding little singular petals, dots, anything around the main flower I find is so beautiful and it really complements the piece. You can't really go too wrong. I find with this design, just keep doing more flowers, more petals, more dots, and it'll all come together. If you're finding it a bit challenging with getting the direction of the petals, feel free to move your canvas around so that you're not having to bend your arm in weird directions. If you do make a mistake, you can always just scrape off the paste. If you have a bit of leftover paint, you can paint over the top of where you've scraped it off and just start again. Don't worry about making mistakes, it's all part of the process. And voila, that is your piece. The design is so gorgeous. As I said at the start, I absolutely love this one. I hope that you enjoyed following along at home and doing this as a wind down activity or something fun to do with your friends.